Hello, everyone, and welcome to Africa Fire Mission's weekly virtual training session. My name is Mike, and I'm the programs director here at Africa Fire Mission. And we're so happy that you took time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's training. Today, we're going to continue in our fire prevention track that we're doing for this month. We're going to be talking about fire prevention in the schools. And we're joined today by Errol Sianga. Errol is Africa Fire Mission's fire safety advocate, and he's going to be taking us through today's subject, talking about fire prevention, fire drills in the schools. Really timely and important topic. Looking forward to that. Before he gets started with today's training, he's going to start us off with a couple words of encouragement.
Yep. Thank you very much, Mike. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's virtual meeting on fire prevention in school. But before I jump into the lesson, I'd like us to have some few encouragement. In our day-to-day activity in the fire service, we need to always reach out to people and tell them more about preventing fires before it happens. And like they say, prevention is better than cure. And as you go out to the community, either you're in the emergency services, in the EMS, or in the fire service, there's something you need to remember, that you need to have a strong faith in when you're going to communicate to the rest and spreading the information. You need to have more hope that people are going to prevent themselves from fire. And when you're going to respond, you're always getting to hope for the best, doing the best in terms of response, recovery, and also keeping safe by yourself with your fellow responders. And also having love, loving what you do as a firefighter, loving what you do as an EMS personnel, loving what you do day and day in our activities. And that brings us to our words of point of encouragement is from the book 1 Corinthians chapter number 13, from verse 13. The Bible records that there are three things that are very important that we need to hold dear to in our career, in our lives, and in our day-to-day life. So I'll read 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 13. It says, and now these three remains, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of this is love. But the greatest of this is love. The love for God, the love for your job, and the love for people. Let's maintain love for each and one another. I'll repeat 1 Corinthians chapter number 13, verse 13. It says, and now these three remains: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of all this is love. So feel encouraged. Just know you're all loved. Let's love each other. Let's spread the love in our day-to-day activity. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Errol. We always appreciate you sharing those encouraging words and the work that you're doing to help promote firefighters throughout all of Africa. Before we
Yeah.
get started with today's training, let me just touch on a couple of administrative notes. If you stick around for at least 70% of today's training, which is usually about 40 or 45 minutes, you'll get a certificate of attendance for today's training. If for some reason you get cut off or you drop your network, there are ways that you can earn that certificate. If you head over to our webpage at www.africafiremission.org, there you go to the resources tab. We've got a ton of free resources for firefighters to use. But under the training materials, there'll be a link to a Google Drive that'll have a recording of today's training, as well as all of the other trainings that we've held so far this year. If you click on one of those trainings, watch the YouTube video recording of the training, answer a few questions to let us know that you watched that whole video, I can get you a certificate of attendance for any of those trainings. So I encourage you to go ahead and take advantage of that if you'd like to get yourself a few more certificates. There's a great way to do it. When we get finished here at the top of the hour, we'll move into our tea time. I invite you to stick around for that if you've got the bundles and the time to do that. It's a great time to ask questions about today's training, to carry on that discussion, and to just network with firefighters from throughout Africa You can see we've got guys from a number of countries already logging in here. So it's a great place to talk about what you've got going on and compare things with others that are working in similar situations. So invite you to stick around for that tea time if you have the chance. At this point in time, I'm going to pass things back over to Errol to get us
Mhm.
started with today's training.
Thank you very much, Mike. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our session today for fire prevention in schools. Uh, my name is Errol Sianga. I'm a firefighter and also fire safety advocate at Africa Fire Mission. So our main focus for this month is just prevention, fire prevention in various activity. So today's presentation is a continuation from the previous two presentation we had. The first one completely, we had introduction to AFM portal by Madam Nancy. The second presentation we had by Jose, how to prevent fires in our community. And last week also, we had the build-up of how to prevent fires in our homes by Assistant Fire Chief Captain, Assistant Fire Chief Cyrus Karim Lurok from West Pokot also. And today we are going to talk about fire safety in schools. Okay, so exactly our introduction to today. What is fire safety? Okay, is keeping safe from fires. Bottom line. Okay, fires that have been either occurred due to accident, incident, or situations. Okay, then as fire lights up when it's not being used in a good way, for example, in cooking or lighting or helping in one way or another doing an activity, we need to understand the dangers of fire. Okay, the dangers of fire are very many. Number one, fire can cause death. Fire can cause destruction. Fire can cause loss of property. Fire can cause also can cause trauma, physical trauma, and psychological trauma. Okay, and what are the importance of being prepared? Yes, preparation, preparation, preparation. We need to prepare ourselves on how to prevent ourselves when a fire occurs. But remember, our main focus is prevention. Prevention is better than cure before it happens. Okay. So moving on to our next slide, it talks about a small video that will tell us, we'll get to see how it goes and what really we're going to talk about in the next upcoming slide. So, Mike.
Why is it important to teach fire safety in schools? Have you ever thought
Is it
about
loud
how
enough?
quickly a fire can spread? It can be terrifying, especially for children who may not fully grasp the dangers. Teaching fire safety in schools is essential because it gives kids the knowledge and skills they need to stay safe. When children learn about fire hazards, they become more aware of their surroundings and can act calmly in emergencies. This education can save lives. Schools are a vital place for fire safety education. Children are naturally curious but may not understand the risks associated with fire. Firefighters and fire safety professionals emphasize the importance of teaching kids about fire safety early on. This foundation of knowledge helps them recognize dangerous situations and respond appropriately. One key reason for teaching fire safety is to reduce fear and increase preparedness. When children learn about fire risks through engaging lessons, they become less anxious and more confident about what to do if a fire occurs. They learn practical skills, such as how to identify smoke alarms and the importance of having an escape plan. Another important aspect is preventing fire-related injuries and deaths. Children who understand how to avoid fire hazards, like matches and in safe electrical practices, are less likely to accidentally start fires. This knowledge not only protects them but also helps keep their families safe. Fire safety education also supports community safety. When children learn about fire safety, they can share this knowledge with their families, improving awareness and preparedness in their homes and neighborhoods. This creates a ripple effect that enhances overall safety in the community. Integrating fire safety into the school curriculum is most effective. Lessons should be age-appropriate and reinforced by teachers. Firefighter visits can make the information relatable and trustworthy, as they demonstrate real-life fire safety practices. This combination ensures that children receive consistent and engaging education. Teaching fire safety includes lessons on recognizing fire hazards at home and school. Children learn about the function and importance of smoke alarms, how to create and practice a fire escape plan, and when to call emergency services. They also gain knowledge about safe behaviors around fire and electrical equipment. Ongoing learning is vital. Progressive fire safety lessons build on previous knowledge, keeping children engaged and reinforcing safety messages over time. Firefighters play a crucial role by visiting schools, explaining concepts, and answering questions, making the information relatable. Overall, teaching fire safety in schools helps create a culture of safety from a young age. It empowers children to protect themselves and others while supporting firefighters in their mission to reduce fire risks and save lives. By investing in fire safety education, we are investing in a safer future for everyone.
Thank you very much. So the slides tells us about how the importance are. So what are the causes of fire? Okay, causes of fires in schools. Now, we need to know that there are very many different types of setups in school. Okay, we have like in Kenya, we have boarding schools and we have day schools. And then we have those international schools and the public school. But now here we have just mentioned a few of the causes that top causes of fire in school in general. So number one is electrical issues, which is electrical fault, okay, from electrical wiring. Either the wiring was done poorly, or maybe the students vandalized the electrical system, so the electrical fault or faulty caused fire. Number two, cooking equipment. For example, those are using boilers in a big institution or in boarding school, okay, or those schools where they encourage people to carry coils so that they can cook within their close quarters of cabinet or cubes. So cooking equipment left unattended, and also when when the fire is too much, or when cooking without proper safety measures. And the one major thing that we also see around in our society, around schools in a certain period of time, is arson. Okay, those people who light up school intentionally so that they can burn with having their motives which are not good. Okay, so arson can be both from the community, from the students themselves, either because of unrest and also because of demanding their demands not met. Lastly, improper use of flammable materials, okay? Improper use of flammable materials, like those who are having labs, for example, the chemistry labs and the physics labs, and also the workshops where they're doing things like welding. Sometimes the materials they use there for doing the experiments are highly flammable. If they are not properly stored or not properly handled, they become highly flammable when they mix against each other. So it causes fire that spreads to the next building or the whole school. So those are the four main things that causes fire in our schools around. So the next slides also tells us what we need to do, okay? How do we prevent these fires from happening? From the top four causes we have seen, number one way of preventing the fires in school is keep flammable materials away from heat sources, okay? So if you have a flammable material, for example, if you have spirit around you or any other chemical that is around you, you keep it away from the heat source, either direct heat or indirect heat. So regular checks of electrical equipment. Yes, I've mentioned this in the previous slide. You regular check the electrical equipment, the sockets, the plugs, the bulbs, and anything that uses electricity. Also the generators and the heaters. So regularly checks for as you're doing maintenance and servicing of all electrical equipment. Then store chemicals properly. Yes, these are both chemicals that can be used for cleaning, and also chemicals can be used for around the institution or the school for doing experiments during the science lab or the science activity, or chemicals that are used either whenever they want to do something around the school. They should be properly stored, properly labeled, and that closet should have a warning sign that we have dangerous chemicals here. And finally, ensure smoke detectors are functioning. Yes, call an expert firefighters, go in, do your inspection, confirm if the smoke detectors are functioning, if the heat detectors are present. So those are confirming if they are functioning. For those institutions that have not installed smoke detectors, they should ensure that they check each and every time when they leave their school or they leave their premises, they do a physical check to confirm that there are no pots of fire or there are no ways where fire can occur. Or if there's anything that can cause fire, you mitigate it at that particular point so that you prevent fire from happening. Remember, our topic for today is preventing of fires in school. Okay, so the next slides tells us about what we need to check on. What equipment is important in school? Yes, some institutions install smoke detectors. Others have sand buckets. Yes, for example, some boarding schools where they cannot install smoke detectors, or they don't have enough resources so that they can have fire extinguishers, you can have sand buckets. Okay, not necessarily you buy buckets, but you can just have plastic container, 20 liter. You cut it into two, then you fill with sand, then you place it strategically in school so that it acts as an extinguisher. Installation of fire extinguishers, yes, very important. In every floor, there must be a fire extinguisher in relation to the type of class of fire, in relation to that building. So installation of fire extinguishers, make sure they're properly serviced, they are well installed, maintained, and also the learners in that school should be educated on not playing with the extinguishers, okay? There's an institution whereby recently I had a visit, and the extinguishers were placed high above, okay, almost to my height. I'm 6'1" tall. So I asked them, why are you placing extinguishers so high and yet the learners aren't this tall? So they said there's a frequency of learners playing with the extinguishers. For example, carbon dioxide extinguishers. They like pressing it and hearing the voice, the noise coming from the extinguisher, and also playing with it very much. So they end up depleting. So costs to lots of costs to the institution. So they place them high up where the learners cannot reach, but the teachers who are on that same block are able to get to reach to where the extinguisher is. Sprinkler systems, very correct, around schools, institution, in the chemistry lab, in the physics lab, in the parking lot, if your institution can have it. All buildings in the schools should have an emergency exit. Okay, all schools should have an emergency exit. Okay, they should always be labeled exit, emergency exit, and should exit as they walk all the way up to the fire assembly point. If it's a boarding school, if it's a day school, if it's a learners, if it's a school that has very little learner, very few learners, or it has very many learners, each and every emergency exit should be clearly labeled, and all the learners should know this is emergency exit in case of fire. So those are the equipments that are very important in all our schools. So moving on to the next one, what to do if there is a fire. Now, we've prevented the fire. We've seen what can cause fire, what you need to install in case of a fire. So now the fire is here, okay? Emergency procedures. All institutions have emergency procedures. So all the learners need to be made aware of fire emergency procedures. Why? Here, in Kenya, we have had situations whereby when fire has occurred, there had not been any procedure whatsoever in place whenever fire has happened. So students were very confused and everybody ran everywhere, and confusion was increasing. So when learners are told about emergency procedures, for example, on Monday morning or on Friday during the assembly, they're having the assembly or the parade, when they meet, they are told about, in case of fire, this is how you behave yourself or you carry yourself in case of emergency. They need to be shown, and emphasis should need to be created every now and then on how they'll behave and how they need to move in case there's a fire emergency. Evacuation routes, properly labeled, clearly lit, and well articulated to the learners so that they know when the fire is happening on my right, I know my evacuation route is on my left. So I'll move all the way to, I use that route all the way up to the fire assembly point. Stay low to avoid smoke. Yes, smoke can choke you, smoke can kill you because smoke is dangerous. So when you inhale smoke, remember you'll start coughing and choke, then you'll suffocate and die. So teach them how to go low, stay low as they avoid smoke, and then they walk up to the fire assembly point. My emphasis is when they are moving to the emergency evacuation, to the fire assembly point, they should not run, they should not push, they should walk very fast up to the fire assembly point. Remember, learners in school are very energetic. And also, whenever they see fire, it causes panic and chaos. So they should be taught on how to walk very fast up to the assembly point. Because when they run or push, stampede will happen, and then people will get injured or some will have fatalities. So meeting at a designated safe spot, fire assembly points or point, okay? If the population in that school is small, then they can have a few assembly points. If the population in that school is larger and it's huge, they can have various assembly points whereby it's visibly indicated this is the assembly point. It's well lit if it's boarding school and it's at night. And also during daytime, the ground is flat, is free from any debris or any obstruction. And also, everyone should be at the fire assembly point, away from the fire itself, away from the institution, so that also smoke cannot reach them and fire cannot reach them. And teachers also are encouraged to be with the learners at the assembly point, so that also they can help calm them down. They can help also to account for them, and also it's a way also of being safe and knowing each and every one of my learners are safe, so that when head count is done, so that when the fire brigade fire team arrives, and also when the parents are contacted, they can know that learners are at the assembly point, so they are allowed to come in. So moving on, fire drills procedure, okay. In our current in Kenyan system of education, it's encouraged that every term all schools should do at least one drill, one fire drill, okay? So they should understand what is a fire drill. How is a fire drill done? Why should we do this fire drill? The learners should understand this drill. They should be told about this drill, and the teacher should emphasize and break it down to the learners that the importance of having a fire drill in school, okay? It's something they need to be emphasized every now and then, so that it gets ingrained in their minds. And then it should be done so that they can understand. What do we mean should be done? Practice fire drill, practice fire evacuation drill, slowly, systematically, how to behave during these fire drills. Don't panic, no running, no shouting, no screaming, walking slowly up to the fire assembly point, following staff instructions. These are the teachers and the head teachers and the principals and the deputy principals and all the staff involved, each and every staff in that institution, from the security guard to the assistant to the dome master. Each and everyone in that institution needs to be involved in that fire drill, and they should be made known that whenever we are conducting a fire drill, This is how we're supposed to conduct ourselves. This is how you're supposed to move. We need to account for all students, okay? Confirm no student is missing. So as they're exiting the room, the classroom, heading towards the fire assembly point, all the students need to walk either in a straight line, very fast up to the fire assembly point. If it's it's in the dormitory, they need to rise up. If it's at night, they cover themselves with the blanket. They walk very fast up to the fire assembly point, because at night it can be very cold sometimes. And also maybe you can stay for longer at the fire assembly point. Okay. And another thing that I need to mention on this is all parents need to be aware. All the parents of the learners needs to be told that the school is conducting a fire drill, and this is how the drill usually done, so that they can have the knowledge of how this fire drill is usually done. And also, during the parents' meeting, the parents and the guardians can be told on the importance of having a fire drill. We've had a situation whereby a school, the parents have gotten the knowledge that the school is on fire. So what happens? All the parents showed up at the gate. They wanted to get in. So as the students were waiting to walk out to go to the fire assembly point, all the parents are there waiting everyone wants to pick their child. So it becomes chaotic, it becomes disorganized, it creates confusion. But the best thing with that example is one of the teachers knew that this will be very chaotic, so they created another exit in which it helped very many people, so it decongested the area. So apart from teachers, learners, and the staff, also the parents needs to be told on the importance of a fire drill, okay, in case a fire happens. So we are moving to the next slide. So the roles of students and staff. So each and every one of us has a role and responsibility. And the word that is highlighted here in bold, everyone's responsible. Everyone is have a responsibility on doing the fire drill. So each and everyone, no one is of a smaller value or of a higher value. We are all important. So how the student can help? Number one, report hazards. Anything that is hazardous to the institution that can cause fire, students need to report to the immediate class representative, to their class president, then to their class teachers, to the principals, the deputy principals. Each and everyone should participate in drills. It's mandatory, all of us, students and staff, to participate in the fire drills in our school, because we are all involved. When something happens, all of us are responsible. So that's why it's everyone's responsibility to participate in a school evacuation fire drill. Now remember, no one is immune. One life lost is too many lives lost, okay? And then it brings lots of chaos, and it brings a lot of anxiety and also trauma. Then the role of the staff in the school is ensuring safety and safety of all of us. So all of the staff should be on the know-how. All of the staff should have a knowledge of how to do the fire drill and make the drill work. So we'll jump to the next slide, which talks about emphasis on the role of fire prevention. So this video will take us through at least everything that we have talked about, and also some things that I've not mentioned. So I want all of us to be keen and watch this video keenly. Then we'll have some time to talk about a few things. Then we'll jump to the next slide. So Mike, take it away. Volume, Mike.
Fires can cause damage to properties and loss of lives anywhere at any time. And schools are no exception. But most fires can be avoided if proper fire safety practices are observed. The best way to prevent this is to eliminate fire hazards. So whether you're a student, a teacher, or a staff of the school, you need to know what fire hazards are and what you should do to remove them. So are you able to identify fire hazards in your school? Our lesson has just started. So class, pay attention. This is what most classrooms look like. You see it every day. It looks very safe. But is it?
Can you spot any possible causes of fire?
So were you able to spot any?
If you see frayed wires or loose wire connections, notify your teachers or officers responsible immediately.
Do not attempt to touch them or make any repairs. And if you need to use more than one electrical appliance, use a good extension socket with multiple outlets. Computers which are left running through the night not only consume energy but might overheat. So shut down and switch off all electronic equipment when you leave the classroom. This is not good. Always remove anything that causes obstruction to passageways and exit routes, or block firefighting equipment or alarms. School management should ensure that firefighting equipment is checked regularly. Fire extinguishers should be full and serviced annually. Fire extinguishers should be made available in the science laboratory, canteen, workshop, stores, as well as the common corridors. Instructions to use the fire extinguisher must be clearly shown. Hose reels should be checked for leaks or other defects. Avoid removing firefighting equipment from its installed position. This fire extinguisher should be rightfully hung here so that it can be found early during a fire. Let us now take a look at the science laboratory. The science laboratory is a place that you must be extra careful and follow all proper procedures. That is because flammable chemicals, combustible materials and burners are kept and used here. Well, let's see whether this laboratory has everything in order. Never leave chemicals or combustible materials lying around after use. Always make it a habit to return them to the designated storage location.
Can't handle it!
This is extremely dangerous. Do not leave combustible materials like paper and chemicals near an open flame. A gentle gush of air may just blow a piece of paper into the flame and start a fire.
Alright class, today we're going to fry some chicken wings.
I smell something. Smells like barbecue chicken. I think it must be coming from the home economics class. Come. It is a big mistake to leave cooking unattended. So can you spot any other fire hazards here?
Auntie, 两碗面啊，一碗要辣椒，另外一碗不要辣椒。也不要锅边哦，也不要锅边要加奶加糖。然后我想一下啊，那个面哦不要加葱，我不喜欢吃葱。然后鸡哦放的多一点，谢谢啊。然后。
Ensure gas supply is completely turned off after use. Check that the pipes and joints are well screwed and clamped. Ensure that they are regularly maintained to guard against gas leakages. Workshops can be a very dangerous place to work in if proper procedures are not followed. So let's see if this workshop has all the necessary precautions in place. Do not leave any tools unattended. Do not just switch off the appliance. Make sure that the main power is switched off as well. Unattended power tools may lead to accidents or fires.
Combustible materials left indiscriminately is a possible cause of fire.
Always clean up the area after use.
A member of staff should be appointed at the end of each day to check the school for possible causes of fire and unsafe practices.
But remember, fire safety, it's everyone's responsibility. So you all play a part in keeping the school fire safe.
Fire! Fire!
Are you familiar with your school's fire evacuation plan? Every school must have a fire evacuation plan which outlines the procedures to be followed in the event of a fire emergency. The fire evacuation plan covers the evacuation routes, the location of the assembly area, and other important details. This is to prevent panic and to ensure a safe and orderly evacuation of everyone in the school compound. Here's what you should do when you hear a fire alarm.
Come on, let's go! Quick!
Evacuate the premises in a very calm and orderly manner. Move quickly to the predetermined assembly area. At the assembly area, a complete roll call for both students and staff members must be carried out. Any student not accounted for must be reported to the principal immediately, together with his last known whereabouts. Staff members trained to fight fire can be mobilized to fight fire from a safe distance before the arrival of the SCDF firefighters. Fire drills are to be conducted at least twice a year. Take your fire drills very seriously, because knowing what to do in a fire can make all the difference. The Singapore Civil Defence Force conducts emergency preparedness training for members of the public at no cost. Called the Community Emergency Preparedness Program, or CEPP for short. It is a modular-based program with theoretical and practical training. The topics covered are first aid, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR for short, fire safety and casualty evacuation, emergency procedures, and unconventional threats. Please visit the SCDF website for more details. Well, looks like our class is over. Remember, keep a lookout for fire hazards, follow the fire safety procedures, and also know your school fire evacuation plan. It will take a concerted effort by all to ensure that our schools are saved from any threats of fire.
Thank you very much, Mike. So that's the video. That's the small video on how to need to keep safe from our school. Our main focus was the fire evacuation in a school and what to do, how to behave, how not to, and what not to do. Okay, that was a very interesting and very informative video. So as we conclude our lesson for today, there are 2 points that I need all of us to carry home or to implement in our various places or schools, either learning institutions where we have preschool, the smaller ones, and the middle age, the junior secondary, and also institutions of learning like university campuses and colleges. Fire prevention in schools is very important. Any type of school, fire prevention is very important. It's very key. It's good to make them know. So that's why when we began this presentation, we said prevention is better than cure. So we need to prevent ourselves from the fires. We need to educate our learners on the importance of keeping safe from fires. If they have an extinguisher in the institution, how they use it. They should conduct fire drills. Now, remember, you're not limited. Sometimes we tend not to do or administer fire drills because we want to use either English, but you're also encouraged to use your local language that people can understand in your various school or in your locality, so that all of them, they can also have the message reach home. Whichever way it is, fire prevention is very important, whichever language you use, and you give them the correct directions. Stay alert and informed, okay? Anytime, as in the fire department, you need to stay alert. Situational awareness is very important. You need to stay informed, current ways of doing prevention. You need to know how does it look like the schools in our locality? Do they experience such kind of fires? How do our schools look like? What's the population of that school? So you need to stay informed and alert. Do they have the fire department's numbers? Can they call the fire department's number in case there is fire? What materials do they have? In case it's fire at night, what kind of procedure is in place to do the evacuation? How can we account for each and everyone? And the importance of getting the parents to be involved as well, apart from the staff, to be informed that fire prevention is important, fire school evacuation drill is important, how they should conduct themselves, who is the contact person, and how they need to relay information in case sometimes learners get traumatized or learners get injured. How should they get to now speak to these learners so that they cannot have that trauma when they're coming back to school? And also keeping our institution safe so that learning may continue, so that they can go back to class, continue the education, so that they can proceed to the next level of life. So stay alert, stay informed, and also be careful also when you're doing your fire prevention and you're going out in schools and in each and any type of school. So that was the conclusion for today's focus. So my details are around in the last slide, Errol Sianga at Africa Fire Mission, in case you need to reach out on ways and means of how to do prevention. And also you can log into our website in the Africa Fire Mission. There are lots of resources inside there in terms of fire prevention. You can use them at your locality in schools, community, homes, and log in also to our website at African Fire Mission. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much, Chief Mike.
Thanks, Errol. What a great presentation there. Just a couple of points to reiterate with what Errol was saying there, and some of my observations as I've worked in various places in Africa, and some of the troubles that maybe we've seen or things that we've seen as we go to the schools and try to do our fire prevention work, right? And the first big hurdle that we see is gaining access.
Yes.
And how do we get access to the schools? How do we get that permission to go into the schools and to conduct those drills? So, there's a situation where you want to work with the fire brigade, with your fire brigade, right? with your chief fire officer to get maybe some kind of a documentation or a letter from the fire brigade, or maybe even it comes through an office of the city council that allows you to, or that just sort of introduces you, a letter of introduction, who you are and what your intentions are when you go to the school there. One of the big things, whether it's required to do these safety inspections of schools or whether it's just a good idea, you're going to encounter these schools that don't necessarily want you to be there. They may be fearful that if they allow you to come in, that you'll see violations, that you'll, try to shut down the school. So when you're approaching the schools to do this kind of work, we call them a fire safety assessment. We try not to use the word inspection.
Yeah.
It should be free of charge, right? And
Yes.
you're not there to, you want to present it to the school that there are no negative consequences to this. We're here to help you. We're here to help you identify safety issues, and we're here to help you find solutions to those. The enforcement part of of inspections and fire inspections and things like that are best left to something that's not directly related with the fire brigade, right? That's not, we're trying to build our reputation in the community. We're trying to gain that respect. We don't want to be looked at like as the bad guys to be associated with like the police or inspections. So as we gain that access, we're here to help you. We're only here to give you recommendations. We just want to make things safe for everyone. When you get that permission and you enter into those schools, how do you go about doing this? The sort of routine that we've gotten into when we do these, that seems pretty successful in our work in Africa. You get to the school, you're gonna meet with the head teacher, and maybe some of their helpers, a couple of the teachers. Explain to them what you'd like to do. Explain to them how things are going to work. Explain to them how your fire evacuation drill is going to take place, right? And then let the school employees be the ones that disseminate that information out to all of the teachers and to the students. And that's going to take some time, right? So you're briefing the head teacher and a couple of the staff, and then they're going to go out and explain to the kids, hey, we're going to do this, the fire evacuation drill. This is where you should go. You should be quiet, no running, no yelling, all that good stuff, right? During that time, when they're passing that information along to the school and talking about what's going to happen next, there's the time that you do your walkthrough, right? So you do a walkthrough of the buildings with the head teacher or whoever they designate. If they have somebody that's responsible for security or somebody that's responsible for maintenance, those would be good people to have with you. And there's where you walk through the school and try to identify these hazards. We have on our website that we just had posted up there. If you go to the resources tab, there's a whole section on fire safety assessments that gives you, sort of a list of stuff to look for. If you enter that information onto our web page, there's a Google form that you can enter all the information that you collect on that fire safety form. And then when you submit that to us, we'll immediately send you back a nice typed up written report of the information. It'll have some suggestions as to how they can fix some of the issues that you've identified. So that's a great tool that you can use. So you go through, you do your inspection, or not inspection, excuse me, assessment, right? Where you're just looking for issues. When that's complete and the teachers are ready to go, you're going to conduct your evacuation drill. While that's happening, of course, you're kind of walking around, checking to make sure things are going well, looking for any tips that you can give them to make it go a little bit smoother. One of the interesting things that I have observed as we're doing these is that it seems like there's no consideration for accounting for those students when you're completed, right? And that's a major step. Errol talked about it. It was mentioned in that video where you gotta count how many students, how many staff there are, figure out who's missing if there's anybody that's missing. And sometimes the schools just don't. Um, Maybe it's something they don't think about or they don't know how to do it. So there's a great time for you to brainstorm and to work with the teachers. How can we figure out we should have an attendance list, we should have a class roster. If it's an overnight school that's got dormitories, um, are we keeping track of who is in each dorm and who's there for that day, so that when we evacuate everybody to that fire assembly point, we do a quick count, and then if there's somebody missing, we can identify based on the list who's missing. Little Johnny is missing. So which dorm was little Johnny in, or what classroom was little Johnny in, and where is he? And it's important, right? Because put yourself in the position of the parent where, if the parent shows up to pick the kids up, and well, little Johnny's not there anymore, and well, who knows where little Johnny is, right? You would expect the school to be keeping track of where your kid is all the time, right? So figure out a way, work for that accountability. And then when that drill's done, everybody's been counted. Before you release those students back to the classroom, there's the time for the quick 5-minute or less fire prevention lesson. Pick your topic. Maybe it's crawl low under smoke. Maybe it's stop, drop, and roll. Whatever that is, you've got that captive audience of kids. They're all there. All the students, all the learners are there. Quick lesson. Don't take up too much time because you've already disrupted the school day just by being there, right? But there's your chance to give that quick message out. And then there's the follow-up afterwards, that it comes from the school to the parents. And Errol touched on this, and I just want to touch on it one more time. The parents need to know that the school has a plan for evacuation in case of an emergency. And the parents need to know where they should go to meet their child and sign their child out or whatever and take them. It's really important that the parents don't interfere with the evacuation process. So as you're trying to get the students out of the school, we don't want the parents trying to get into the school to find their kids. So we've got to make sure that the school communicates to the parents, hey, we've done this before. We've practiced this. We have a plan. Here's the fire assembly point for the students. We'll take accountability for all of them. And here's the location for the parents to pick up. We use a fancy term for it here in the US, right? We call it a reunification center, where we reunite the parents and the students together, okay? Unfortunately, the sad reality for us is we do that planning for school shootings, not just for like a fire, right? But it is what it is. But we've got a place where the parents can come and check their students out. And again, there's got to be some kind of process there too. How many in your communities have you had a fire at a school and there's a huge death toll, right? Like at the beginning after the fire, and they're like, "Oh, there's 40 we've lost 40 learners." And as the days go by, then, well, it turns out that maybe it was only 10 or 15 because the other students just fled and went back home, or they're safe and well, but no one accounted for them or anything like that. So how do we sort of control all that, talk through all that? I know that sort of culturally, right, we don't like to talk about bad things happening. You go to the school and say, I want to plan what to do in case the school gets on fire. You're going to get some of that pushback, right? That, like, we don't want to talk about this, right? You're going to bring this on us. But is that the case? Do we know, we know what starts fires,
Yeah.
We talked about it in the training today, the causes of fire. Nowhere on that list was it people talking about a fire, right? Nowhere on that list was fire drills cause fires, right? But
Yeah.
am I right? There's this cultural thing, right? We don't want to talk about bad stuff because we don't want to bring that bad, whatever you call it, bad juju, bad magic, bad whatever it is, right? That people don't like
Yeah.
that. So how do we, as we go about this, how do we get over that as well? That like we do need to plan this out. And things are getting better in that aspect, I think, as
Uh,
unfortunately as we see some tragedies in schools, right? People get a little bit better about doing that. But just some of those are just some of the things that we've seen as we're working in the schools. And the really cool thing that we've seen is after that first school visit, after that first time that you visit the school and um, you get uh, you get in there, you do your drill. Um, Even if they're reluctant to sort of that first time, once they see that it happens smoothly, right? Nobody got injured. There's that fear of kids getting hurt in a stampede when you're doing an evacuation. When they see that it can be orderly, they're more welcoming to you. And hey, yeah, that was good. Let's do it again. And we want to get to that point where an evacuation drill is something that's done so commonly in the schools that when that fire bell sounds, the students know, oh, okay, I get up, I quietly walk down the hallway, and this is where I go. So we get into that routine where we're making those fire evacuation drills routine to the point where when there's a real fire, the students may not even realize that it's a real fire because they're just used to doing the drills enough. And so you get that period of calm even in a real emergency because it's just routine. It's like, oh, it's just another fire drill. We'll just quietly and quickly leave. And oh, geez, well, it was real, but everybody was nice and calm about it because it's a habit. So just a couple other points there. Um, as we wrap up here, as we reach the top of the hour, we're going to move into our tea time, but and I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear some success stories or problems that you're facing as you get into those schools. So if you have the time, please stick around as we move into this discussion. I just need to wrap up sort of the formal point of our training. Big thank you to Errol. A great presentation today. Errol's been doing a lot of work in the schools. Next week I'll be heading over there and I'll be in the schools the week after that doing some work in some of the schools in Kenya with Errol and some of our other staff. And it's going to be great. I love working in your schools and helping to spread this message. So thank you, Errol, for you're helping to get me ready to go too. Getting my mind working on this stuff as I come to do some of that work. And then thank you to all of you guys out there that took the
yeah.
time to join us for this. This is a really important topic, and we want to make sure that you guys are all out there working with your local schools, getting in there and doing this kind of work. We've got plenty of seats available here. If there's anybody else that you think may benefit from these trainings, please feel free to share that registration link. And I guess that's all of our formal portion for today. Please stick around, and I hope to see you all again next week.